Subject: My wife lied about our daughter for years. The day I found out changed everything. My name's Braxton. I'm not the type of guy who sits around watching YouTube all day, but one night, after I got home from work, I was sitting on my couch scrolling through my phone and decided to check it out. I clicked on one of your videos. I think it was titled, "She Said the Baby Was Mine Until the DNA Test Came Back." That one hit me like a punch in the gut. It was too close to home. I sat there frozen, just staring at the screen thinking, damn, this is literally my life. That's when I knew I had to write in, because I've got a story that still feels like a nightmare, and the part that hurts most is knowing that I lived through it with my eyes open, thinking I was building a family with someone who loved me. So here it goes. I met Jenna back in 2014 at a friend's get-together. She was the cousin of one of my old high school buddies. I remember the first time I saw her, she had this natural beauty about her, that kind of charm that didn't even seem like she had to try. She wasn't over the top, not loud or flashy, just calm, sweet, and kind of shy. We got to talking near the grill, just some light conversation about music, movies, and random things. I was 29 at the time, had just been promoted at work, and was in that mindset of wanting something real, something stable, and Jenna came off as exactly that type of woman. She said all the right things. She told me she was tired of dating immature men, that she wanted a man who had his life together, someone dependable, and I thought, that's me. We started dating not long after that. Things moved fast, but not in a reckless way. At least that's how it felt back then. Within 6 months, she met my family, and my mom loved her. She said, "Braxton, she's a good one. Don't let her go." My mom doesn't say that about just anyone. We got engaged a year later, and by 2016, we were married. At first, married life was smooth. Jenna played the perfect role, the supportive wife, the one who cooked, cleaned, and was always affectionate. She made me feel like I'd finally found peace after years of dating chaos. I'd come home from work and she'd have dinner ready, candles lit. Sometimes even surprise me with something small, like a note saying she loved me. I really believed I hit the jackpot. The subtle change. But looking back, I can pinpoint exactly when things started shifting. It wasn't overnight, but it was steady and quiet, almost like a slow fade out of who she used to be. It started when she got a new job around 2018. She'd been working part-time at a local daycare for a few years, but then she got hired full-time at a marketing company downtown. At first, I was proud of her. I supported it. I told her, this is your time to shine. But once she started that job, it was like she transformed into someone else. She began staying late at the office. She said they were working on a big campaign and that late nights were just part of it. I didn't think too much of it. I trusted her. But those late nights started turning into weekends. She'd say things like, "We're doing a weekend retreat," or "the team's doing a bonding trip." I believed her. I shouldn't have, but I did. Then came the distance. She stopped showing affection. The morning kisses disappeared. The "I love yous" became less frequent. She'd snap at me over small things. If I asked her how her day went, she'd say, "I'm tired, Braxton. I don't want to talk right now." One night I came home early from work and noticed she wasn't there, even though she said she'd be working from home that day. Her laptop was still on the table, but no sign of her. I texted her, no response. Called her, nothing. She finally texted back an hour later saying, "Oh, I had to run out and grab some things from the store," but she came home 3 hours later with no groceries, nothing in her hands, just a cold attitude and a story that didn't make sense. That was the first night I really started doubting her. The pregnancy. In 2019, Jenna told me she was pregnant. You would have thought I won the lottery. I was ecstatic. I'd always wanted to be a father. We talked about starting a family, and though it hadn't been planned, I took it as a blessing. I started working overtime to save more, I started setting up a nursery, and I did everything a proud soon-to-be dad would do. But something was off. Her reaction to the pregnancy wasn't the same as mine. She acted indifferent, like she was nervous or unsure. I chalked it up to hormones, but deep down it didn't sit right. During her pregnancy, she became even more distant. She'd go to her appointments alone, saying she didn't want me to miss work. I argued with her about that because I wanted to be there, but she was insistent. She said, "It's just a checkup, Braxton. Stop being dramatic." The day our daughter, or who I thought was our daughter, was born, I cried like a baby. I was the one who held her first because Jenna was exhausted. I looked at that little girl and thought, I'll protect you with my life. For a while, things got better. Jenna seemed to settle into motherhood, and I fell in love with that baby. Every night I'd rock her to sleep, feed her, change her diapers, all of it. I thought the storm had passed. I thought maybe we were just adjusting to new parenthood. But man, was I wrong. The cracks widened. When our daughter turned 1, Jenna started going out again. Girls' nights, networking events, weekend retreats. The excuses never ended. One time, I remember, she said she was going to Washington State to visit a friend named Elise who was going through a divorce. She said Elise needed her emotional support and that she'd be gone for 4 days. I didn't fight her on it because, by that point, I had given up trying to control her movements. I figured maybe the space would be good for both of us. So that weekend, it was just me and our little girl. I loved that time. We went to the park. I made pancakes in the morning. We watched cartoons together. She'd giggle every time I made funny faces. I remember thinking, no matter what happens between me and Jenna, I'll always have her. Then came that night. The call that broke me. It was Saturday night. Jenna FaceTimed me while I was putting our daughter to bed. I was sitting in her nursery, holding her, when Jenna appeared on the screen. She was wearing a robe, hair wrapped up, sitting on a bed in what looked like a hotel room. She said, "Hey babe, just checking in. How's our little angel?" We talked for maybe 5 minutes, mostly about the baby. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a man's voice in the background, deep and casual, say, "I'm back." It was loud and clear. I froze. Jenna's face changed instantly. She looked startled and said, "Oh, I gotta go. The Wi-Fi's cutting out." Then she hung up. I just sat there staring at the phone, replaying it in my head. "I'm back." Who was that? I didn't even sleep that night. I went over every lie she'd ever told, every weird story that didn't add up. It all started to click. The next day, I called her. No answer. Texted her. No response. She finally called me back that evening saying, "Sorry, we were driving through the mountains. No service." I didn't even argue. I just said, "We'll talk when you get home." When she got back that Monday, she acted normal, hugged our daughter, kissed me on the cheek like nothing happened. But I knew something inside me had broken. The DNA test. After that trip, something inside me changed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, not just about her, but about everything. One night while she was asleep, I just sat on the couch holding my daughter, staring at her little face. And I couldn't help but notice she didn't look like me. People always said, "Oh, she's got Jenna's eyes." But no one ever said she looked like me. That thought haunted me for weeks. I confided in my older brother and he said, "Braxton, if you really have doubts, get the test. You need peace of mind." So, I ordered a home DNA kit online. When the test came, I waited for the right time. One morning when Jenna was in the shower, I swabbed the baby's cheek. I did mine after she left for work. I mailed it off and tried to act normal, but every day waiting for those results felt like an eternity. When the results finally came, I opened them alone, in my car during my lunch break. It said, probability of paternity, 0.00%. I remember my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. My stomach turned. I felt like I was going to throw up. I sat there for an hour just staring at the results, my whole world collapsing. Everything I had built my life around was a lie. The confrontation. That night when Jenna got home, I confronted her. I said, "I know she's not mine." She froze. Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" she said, trying to act confused. I showed her the email on my phone. She looked at it for a few seconds, then broke down crying. "Braxton, please let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped. "That you lied to me for 2 years? That you let me bond with a child that's not even mine?" She cried harder and said, "It was a mistake. It was just one time. I didn't know she wasn't yours until later, and I didn't know how to tell you." That was it. I was done. I packed a bag that night and told her I'd be staying with my brother for a while. The divorce. I filed for divorce 2 weeks later. That's when the real nightmare began. Jenna's lawyer tried everything to make me pay child support. He argued that I had assumed the role of father and that I was financially responsible since I had acted as a parent. But I wasn't about to let that happen. I provided the DNA test results to the court, and my lawyer fought like hell for me. It dragged out for months. Jenna even tried to claim I was emotionally abusive to paint herself as a victim. It was all lies. I stayed calm, didn't react, just let the facts speak for themselves. Eventually, the judge ruled that I had no legal obligation to pay child support or alimony. It was the one victory in this entire mess. Aftermath. After the divorce was finalized, Jenna reached out a few months later. She said she had tracked down the real father. Turns out, he was a guy she used to work with at that marketing firm, one of those late-night project guys. The kicker? He was married, had 2 kids of his own. When she told him about the baby, he told her flat out he wanted nothing to do with it. He said he had a family to protect, so now she's on her own. She tried guilt-tripping me a few times, saying, "You're the only father she's ever known, and she misses you." I ignored it. I had already given my heart, my time, my money, and for what? Lies. It took me a long time to heal from that. Some nights I'd wake up and still hear that man's voice in my head. I'm back. That moment plays like a broken record in my mind, but I've learned to accept it. I realized that Jenna never really loved me. She loved the stability I brought. She loved having a roof over her head, a man who took care of her, who made her feel secure. But when temptation came, she threw it all away. That's who she truly was. Moving forward. Now I'm 39. I've been divorced for a year and a half. No kids, no contact with Jenna, nothing. It's crazy how quiet life gets after chaos leaves it. I started hitting the gym again, focusing on work, and honestly, rediscovering who I am without all the drama. I'm not bitter anymore, just wiser. I've learned that loyalty can't be faked forever. Eventually, the mask slips. I'll be honest, though. There are still moments I think about that little girl. She didn't ask for any of this. And in some ways, I'll always have a soft spot for her because I was the only dad she knew for 2 years. But I had to let her go to protect my peace. After I filed for divorce, I expected anger, denial, maybe even regret. But what I didn't expect was the performance that followed. Jenna turned into an entirely different person, one I didn't even recognize. She went from begging for forgiveness one day to trying to destroy me the next. She'd call crying, saying, "Please, Braxton, don't do this to our family. I made a mistake, but we can fix it." Then, when I wouldn't answer her calls, she'd start blowing up my phone with messages like, "You'll regret this," and "You're abandoning your daughter." That last one always stung, even though I knew the truth. Because no matter how angry I was, that little girl had become a part of me. I'd spent 2 years changing her diapers, feeding her, rocking her to sleep. The bond was real, even if the blood wasn't. But I had to keep reminding myself that none of this was my fault. I didn't destroy the family. Jenna did. Once the divorce papers were filed, she switched from emotional tactics to legal ones. The legal battle. I'll never forget the day I got the first letter from her attorney. I opened it at my kitchen table, thinking it was just routine paperwork. But when I started reading, my blood boiled. It said that Jenna was seeking child support and alimony on the grounds that I had established a paternal relationship with the child and was financially responsible for her well-being. Let that sink in. Her lawyer was trying to make me pay child support for a child proven by DNA not to be mine. My lawyer, a tough older guy named Robert, told me right away, "They're trying to scare you into settling. Don't panic." But I couldn't help it. I was furious. I called Jenna that night and told her, "You're really gonna do this? You're really gonna make me pay for your lies?" She acted calm, almost smug. "Braxton, this isn't personal. It's just what's fair." "What's fair?" I shot back. "Fair would be you taking responsibility for sleeping with another man and lying about it for 2 years. She didn't respond, just hung up. That moment changed everything. That's when I realized she wasn't the woman I thought I married. She wasn't confused or emotional or broken. She was cold and calculated. Playing the victim. A week later, I started hearing from mutual friends that Jenna was running her mouth. She told people I abandoned her and our daughter. She told one of my coworkers' wives that I changed after marriage and emotionally neglected her. Basically, she was rewriting history, turning herself into the victim and me into the villain. But I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. Robert told me, "Let her talk. Every time she opens her mouth, she digs herself deeper." And he was right, because once the court got involved, every lie she told started unraveling. The first court hearing. The first hearing was brutal. Jenna walked in looking like she'd rehearsed for it. Hair perfect, fake tears, tissues in hand. I sat there next to Robert, calm but tense. When it was her turn to speak, she said, "Your Honor, Braxton has been this child's father since birth. He cut the umbilical cord, he's her emotional support, and it's not right for him to just walk away because of some DNA test." I almost laughed. Some DNA test? As if the proof that she cheated didn't matter. Robert stood up and said, "Your Honor, the petitioner has zero biological connection to the child in question. We have certified DNA results confirming that. Furthermore, my client was unaware of this deception until recently, and he has acted in good faith from the moment he discovered the truth." The judge nodded, clearly unimpressed by Jenna's performance. That day, the court ruled in my favor, at least temporarily. No child support order, no alimony. But the case wasn't over. Jenna's lawyer filed motions and appeals, trying every loophole to get money out of me. It dragged on for months. The emotional toll. During those months, I barely slept. I'd come home from work exhausted, eat dinner alone, and just sit in silence. My apartment felt cold, not because of the temperature, but because it lacked that feeling of home. Sometimes I'd find myself scrolling through old photos of me and the baby, her first steps, her first Christmas, and every time I'd feel this deep ache in my chest. I'd tell myself, "You're doing the right thing," but the guilt was heavy. Friends tried to cheer me up. My brother would come over, bring beer, and say, "Man, she played you good, but you're free now. Don't let her drag you back." He was right, but it's not that easy to just move on when someone's ripped your entire world apart. The turning point. Then came the moment everything shifted in my favor. During one of the later hearings, Robert presented new evidence, text messages between Jenna and the man she had the affair with. She'd tried to delete them, but during discovery, her old iCloud backups revealed everything. There it was. Months of messages between her and a guy named Chad. The same Chad she told me was just a coworker. One message stood out. It was dated around the time she got pregnant. Chad wrote, "You sure Braxton won't figure it out?" The timing's close. Her response, "He won't. He's too trusting. He'll think it's his." When that was read in court, Jenna's face went pale. She couldn't even look at me. The judge said, "Mrs. Smith, based on the evidence presented, it's clear that Mr. Smith was deceived under false pretenses. There will be no child support or alimony granted." I'll never forget that sentence. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. The aftermath of the ruling. Once the ruling came down, Jenna tried one last time to reach out. She showed up at my apartment building unannounced one evening. I was coming back from the gym when I saw her sitting on the steps. She looked rough, like she hadn't slept in days. "Braxton, can we talk?" she said. I sighed. "About what, Jenna?" She started crying, saying, "I know I messed up. I thought if I could get some support, it would help us both. I'm struggling." "Struggling with what?" I asked. "The consequences of your choices?" She shook her head. "Please don't be cruel." "Cruel," I said. "You lied to me for years. You let me raise a child that wasn't mine, then tried to take my money in court. I've been more than fair, Jenna. You should be in jail for fraud." She started sobbing and said, "Chad doesn't want anything to do with her. He says he can't ruin his family." I didn't even respond. I just said, "That's not my problem anymore," and walked away. The collapse. From that point on, Jenna's life started unraveling. She lost her apartment because she couldn't keep up with rent. Apparently, she'd been counting on alimony that never came. I later heard from one of her cousins that she'd been bouncing between friends' couches, trying to find stable work. Then, the cherry on top. Chad's wife found out about the affair and left him. He ended up moving to another city with his kids, cutting off all contact with Jenna. So there she was. No husband, no lover, no financial support, and a child to raise on her own. It might sound cold, but honestly, I didn't feel sorry for her. Actions have consequences. Learning to live again. After the divorce, I made a promise to myself. I'd never let another person's lies define me again. I started going to therapy, hitting the gym more consistently, and picking up old hobbies I'd abandoned, fishing, hiking, and even learning guitar. It was weird at first, doing things just for me again, but slowly I started to feel like myself. One of the best things I did was cut off all contact with Jenna completely. I blocked her number, deleted our photos, and even changed my email. I needed a clean break. It was hard. There were nights I'd wake up thinking about that little girl, wondering how she was doing. But I had to remind myself I couldn't keep paying for someone else's deception. That wasn't my burden anymore. Jenna's attempt at redemption. About 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I got an unexpected letter in the mail. It was from Jenna. She wrote, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I never meant for things to turn out this way. I wish I could go back and undo it all. The truth is, Chad left town and hasn't contacted us since. I'm struggling to make ends meet, and I just wanted you to know that I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to apologize." It was handwritten, shaky, emotional, desperate. I read it once, then folded it up and threw it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't trust her motives. After everything she put me through, I couldn't take her words at face value anymore. Seeing her again. The last time I saw Jenna was at the grocery store about 4 months ago. I was in the checkout line when I heard someone behind me say, "Braxton?" I turned around, And there she was, holding a basket with just a few items, looking exhausted. She had that same tired look I'd seen the night she showed up at my place. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey," I replied. There was an awkward silence. Then she said, "She's getting big. You wouldn't even recognize her now." I didn't say anything. She continued, "She asks about you sometimes." That hit me like a ton of bricks, but I stayed calm and said, "Tell her I wish her the best." Then I turned back around and finished checking out. When I got to my car, I just sat there for a few minutes. Not sad, not angry, just empty. That was the closure I didn't know I needed. Reflection. Looking back now, I can see every red flag I ignored. The late nights, the defensiveness, the emotional distance, all of it. When you're in love, you want to believe the best about someone. You convince yourself that the bad moments are just phases, that things will get better. But the truth is, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Jenna showed me who she was, but I was too blinded by the version of her I wanted to believe in. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that peace is priceless. No relationship, no marriage, no family is worth your sanity. Now I live alone. I've got a nice place, a small circle of friends, and a routine that keeps me grounded. I don't date seriously, not because I'm bitter, but because I'm content. I'm not looking for validation anymore. What happened to Jenna? A few weeks ago, I heard from one of her relatives that Jenna has been working part-time at a local diner. Apparently, she's been struggling to keep up with bills. The guy she cheated with has completely ghosted her, and his wife filed for divorce after finding out everything. Word is, Jenna tried to take him to court for child support, but since there was no proof of paternity or acknowledgement on his part, she got nothing. So now she's completely on her own. I don't take joy in that, but I won't lie. There's a sense of justice in it. For so long, she got to play the role of the victim while I was painted as the villain. But now the truth is out, and she's living the consequences of her own actions. I learned that sometimes peace doesn't come from revenge or closure. It comes from acceptance, from realizing you did your best and someone else's deceit doesn't define your worth. Jenna destroyed the life we built, but in doing so, she gave me something unexpected: clarity. Now I know what I stand for, what I'll never tolerate again, and how to spot the kind of manipulation I once called love. After everything that's happened with Jenna, the lies, the betrayal, the divorce, and all that chaos, I finally feel like I can breathe again. It's been a long time since I've felt this much clarity. I've spent months rebuilding myself, one piece at a time, and now I'm getting ready to move to Dallas, Texas for a new position that's paying me more than I've ever made in my life. I want to take you through how that came about, but before I get into that, I need to say this. Peace feels strange after so much war. You get so used to walking on eggshells, to defending yourself against emotional ambushes, that when the noise stops, your mind doesn't know what to do. I remember sitting in my apartment one night after the divorce finalized, and it was quiet, too quiet. For a minute, I thought something was wrong, but that silence was just the absence of chaos, and I had to learn that it's okay to live without constant tension. How the Dallas move came about. A few months after the divorce, I started putting my energy back into my career. I work in logistics, supply chain management, to be specific. I'd always been reliable at my job, but during my marriage, I felt like I had to hold myself back for Jenna's sake. Every time I wanted to take a promotion that required travel or longer hours, she guilt-tripped me. "So, you just want to leave me alone while you go play businessman?" That was her line. It didn't matter how I explained it. She twisted it into neglect. So I turned down opportunities that could have changed our lives financially. But once the marriage ended, I promised myself I'd never hold back for anyone again. I started staying late, volunteering for more projects, helping with inventory audits, and suggesting process improvements. My boss noticed. Before long, I was leading small teams and saving the company money. Word started spreading, and next thing I know, a recruiter from a firm in Dallas reached out. They'd seen one of the case studies I wrote on process efficiency that got published in an industry newsletter. They said they were impressed with my approach and wanted to know if I'd be open to relocating for a senior logistics manager position. I remember reading that email and just sitting there for a minute. It hit me. This was the kind of opportunity I used to dream about, but I'd buried it under years of marital stress. I went through 2 rounds of interviews, both over video call, and they went smoothly. Then they flew me out to Dallas for the final interview. The moment I stepped off the plane, I felt something. I can't explain it, just this rush of energy. Like this city was alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. After the in-person interview, I got the call within a week. They offered me the job with a base salary higher than anything I've ever earned, plus bonuses and relocation assistance. I accepted. The official move is set for next month. What this move means to me. This isn't just a job move. It's freedom. It's proof that I can rebuild my life after destruction. Dallas is going to be a reset button. New surroundings, new people, new mindset. No memories of Jenna lingering around every corner. No reminders of what used to be. Just me and a clean slate. I already found an apartment in Uptown, not too far from where I'll be working. It's not fancy, but it's got floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the skyline. The first time I saw it, I stood there and thought, this is what peace looks like. You know, one thing I've realized about rebuilding your life after betrayal is that the process isn't just emotional. It's logistical too. You have to physically move away from the things that anchor you to the pain. For me, every street in my current city holds a memory of her. The grocery store, where she used to text me while secretly messaging someone else. The park where we took our daughter before I found out the truth. Even the gas station, near the old apartment. She once used it as an excuse to meet someone. I don't want to heal where I was broken. I want to start somewhere that doesn't carry her fingerprints. What I learned about myself. The last year has been about more than just recovery. It's been about rediscovery. I learned that I had been shrinking myself to fit into a life that was never meant for me. Jenna made me feel like being ambitious was selfish. She had this way of taking something good and twisting it until I questioned my own motives. For years, I thought maybe I was doing too much. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough attention. But once I stepped back, I realized that her accusations were projection. She wanted me to fail quietly because she was too afraid to confront her own insecurities. That's the sad truth about some people. They don't want a partner, they want a mirror, and when the reflection doesn't flatter them, they try to shatter it. I've been hitting the gym again, too. At first, it wasn't about looks. It was about discipline. I needed something to channel the frustration, so I started waking up early, hitting the weights before work. But somewhere along the way, it became therapy. Seeing physical progress helped me trust myself again. My body changed, and so did my confidence. The aftermath of finding out the truth. I won't lie. I still think about that little girl sometimes. Even though the DNA test confirmed that she wasn't mine, I can't erase 3 years of being dad. She used to run to me when I came home from work, yelling "Daddy" and jumping into my arms. That part hurts, not because I miss Jenna, but because I miss the idea of fatherhood that was stolen from me. When Jenna lied about paternity, she didn't just cheat physically. She robbed me of genuine moments. And the part that burns the most, she did it without hesitation. There wasn't even remorse when I confronted her with the DNA results, just denial and deflection. When I told her lawyer I wasn't paying child support for a kid that wasn't mine, the man looked at me like I was heartless. But here's what they never understand. You can't demand fatherhood where you've destroyed trust. Love isn't a contract, it's a choice. And that choice was taken from me. How I finally started finding peace. After the divorce, I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I ended up tolerating so much disrespect. The therapist told me something that stuck. You were raised to fix things, not to walk away from them. But sometimes fixing something broken just cuts your hands. That hit hard, because that's exactly what marriage felt like, reaching into shattered glass, hoping to piece it back together while bleeding out. Over time, therapy helped me see patterns I ignored. I grew up watching my dad bend over backwards for my mom, even when she disrespected him. I thought that was love. Turns out, it was codependency. I repeated that pattern with Jenna, thinking loyalty meant endurance. But now I understand that love doesn't demand self-destruction. A story that changed my perspective. Let me share something that happened recently, something small but meaningful. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a cafe reading a book before work. The barista messed up my order, gave me regular instead of decaf. When she apologized, I told her it was no big deal, and we ended up chatting for a minute. She said something simple that stuck with me. She said, "It's nice when someone doesn't snap at me for small mistakes. Most people carry anger they didn't earn." It made me realize that for years I was one of those people. Not snapping at strangers, but walking around with internal anger, built up resentment from constantly being lied to, dismissed, and gaslit. You carry it until it becomes invisible weight. But lately, I've been letting go of that. It's like cleaning your emotional house. Financial stability and personal wins. Another thing that's helped me feel grounded is financial control. Divorce drains your wallet, especially when lawyers get involved. But I was smart about it. I refinanced some of my debts, cut unnecessary expenses, and started investing again. I've been watching my savings grow steadily, and it feels good to know that I'm back in control of my life. I even picked up a new hobby, photography. I bought a mid-range DSLR and started going on weekend drives to shoot landscapes. At first, it was just something to get me out of the house, but now it's something I genuinely look forward to. There's something about capturing a moment that makes you appreciate stillness. It's ironic, after years of chaos, I'm finding beauty in quiet scenes. A message to younger men. One thing I want to say to anyone who hears my story on your channel: don't ignore red flags just because you're in love. The moment someone starts guilt-tripping you for having goals, take a step back. The right person will push you to grow, not punish you for it. Also, don't let anyone make you feel bad for walking away. Society always pressures men to fight for their marriage, but there's a difference between fighting for something and fighting alone. Once you realize you're the only one swinging, it's time to drop the gloves and walk out. What's next for me? As I pack up my place, I've been reflecting on everything that's happened. The pain, the lessons, the growth. I'm proud of myself for surviving what I thought would break me. Moving to Dallas isn't just about money. It's about reclaiming the narrative. I've already started researching things to do there. Local gyms, business networking events, even a few volunteering opportunities. I'm not rushing into dating, though. I've had a few people suggest I get back out there. But honestly, I'm good where I'm at. I want to focus on myself, my peace, and my future. If love happens down the road, it'll be with someone who matches my peace, not disturbs it. My first day at the new job is in 3 weeks. I've been preparing mentally, reviewing their systems, brushing up on some management strategies, setting personal goals. I want to hit the ground running. You know what's crazy? A year ago, I was sitting on the couch heartbroken, wondering how I'd rebuild after everything. Now I'm about to move to another state for a job that pays double what I was making. If that's not proof that pain can be fuel, I don't know what is. Closing thoughts. When I first wrote to you, I was still angry, still deep in the storm. Now I'm writing from the other side. I survived, and more than that, I learned. If there's one thing I've taken from this entire experience, it's that betrayal doesn't define you, it refines you. You either let it turn you bitter or let it turn you better. I chose better. When I get settled in Dallas, maybe I'll send another update. Maybe by then I'll have new stories, ones that don't involve pain, but progress. For now, I'm just grateful. Grateful that I made it through. Grateful for the lessons. Grateful for peace. Thanks again for reading my story and for giving men a space to share their truth. I didn't realize how powerful it was until I did it myself. Take care, Braxton.